CEO Tim Cook is finally coming around to my way of thinking. He is arguing that the time of the PC is over.
Yeah, he argues that the new Apple products like the larger iPad Pro could drastically alter how we work. So CNET senior editor Jeff Bakalar is here to talk a little bit about this. So he's sort of banking on these new iPads, but I always thought iPads didn't have enough memory to replace the PC.
Well, the new iPad Pro is a pretty impressive piece of hardware. It's got the guts that you want for a fully functional and productive machine.
Right.
But I don't know if I agree with him with this whole dissing on the PC thing.
I mean, if you look around here in our newsroom and in many corporations across America, there are PCs.
The majority of corporations use Windows, so that, I don't know where he's getting why no one would want to buy a PC.
Yeah.
Not to mention, there's the whole angle of like gaming too. That is a $29 billion industry that Mac doesn't have, and Apple doesn't have any sort of play in whatsoever, for the most part. So that's something you really can't write off either. Windows 10 that came out this year is pretty great. I'm not picking a side here. I'm just saying when Tim Cook says stuff like that, it's a little peculiar. He sounds like he's almost on the defensive. Maybe he knows something that we don't know. That he's being threatened.
And does it seem strange that he's promoting the iPad Pro as opposed to the MacBook even, or the Mac computers? He's saying the iPad Pro is going to be what ultimately kills PCs.
Right, and I think, you know, he talks in this piece about being, you know, Apple being cannibalized, where they have a MacBook Pro and they have an iPad Pro, and it's sort of like, well, these two products overlap too much. You know, I think the iPad Pro is really only going to appeal to a specific sort of demographic at first. The artists, the people who really need to be productive and on the go. Me personally, I would not pick one of those up over a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro right now. But, you know, look, the iPad, he talks about, you know, this being a replacement for a PC. The iPad Pro is basically stealing or lifting stuff from the Microsoft Surface, which was the first to really do the tablet keyboard hybrid. So we'll sort of have to see which one becomes the more popular product. iPad Pro is a lot of money out of the gate. You're dropping serious cash on that thing.
Yeah, you are.
If you want to be one of the first.
How much do they go for now?
I think they're starting for $800, or $800 to $900, somewhere in that range. And then with all the accessories, that pencil, that stylus is $100. That's an expensive pencil.
A lot of money there. So let me ask you this. Tim Cook has also talked about Apple entering the medical market. That's really interesting. It had been touted for the iWatch. That was going to be somehow medically attuned.
Keep track of all your sort of particulars, and maybe your doctor could have access to it and all that sort of stuff. Is that the way he's thinking of going, or no?
Yeah, I mean, there's some impressive sort of medical vital information monitoring that the Apple Watch can do. I think the biggest challenge Apple's facing is how they mesh into the sort of medical care industry while still being this, you know, innovative tech company. It's not something they're very sort of versed in. So it's something they're started figuring out. How do we approach this? How do we get this regulated? I think it's going to be a difficult sort of bumpy road for them, but they have a lot of pull, and I think
right, because once you wade into medicine, you're talking about all sorts of regulatory bodies that want to know what you're doing.
They're the big fish in the tech pond, but wait till they enter the medical arena. It's going to be a whole different
It would be interesting. What they should perhaps consider doing is entering it through the hardware systems that they are dealing with the government or with the medical information technology itself, as opposed like GE. GE does things for doctors, for hospitals. There are GE appliances that you can buy, but those are not meant for the consumers. Maybe Apple should consider that route.
Yeah, maybe they go to a professional sort of line of products. I don't know. I mean, they are really sort of spreading out in ways we didn't really think they would approach. How they manage that relationship with the medical industry sort of remains to be seen. Tim Cook loves to talk about the future, but he's always super dubious. It's never like, all right, but what do you mean, man? Like, get some details out there. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens.